Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Now today we are going to be talking about the Overwatch League Week 3 matches in May. This is obviously before the May Melee tournament actually takes place, and I think that'll be actually, well, quote unquote, tomorrow that'll be taking place. So let's get on right into the results for Week 3. So these are the results for week 3. We're first going to start off from the Paris, Atlanta to Shock and Atlanta. So first off, Paris and Atlanta, not really that surprising. It was a 3-0 easy win. Kai was MVP. Obviously I didn't watch most of these because I could be fucked really, but I'm just trying to give my opinions on them. Washington versus Boston. It went to Washington's way 3-1. I think Boston has kind of looked a little bit competitive against some of the teams that you think may be like really good. Obviously, they weren't really that competitive against Gladiators and Dallas, but they did get one win. You could already tell which one it was, but yeah. So Boston I think Boston is a little bit inconsistent of a team, to be honest. Washington, though, is just sweeping the floor, and they look really good. We're now going to the East. It was a 3-0 for Guangzhou against the Valiant. Not really that surprising at all. Guangzhou have, I guess, kind of a little bit picked up the pace a tiny bit, but that's just only against the Valiant. So, yeah. Next one, we got Seoul versus New York. I'm not really that surprised as well about that. Seoul is one of the best APAC teams in in Overwatch League and APAC, so it kind of makes sense of that they demolished New York. But this one kind of surprised me. Shanghai versus Hangzhou was a 3-2, and I kind of expected Shanghai to have just an easy win, but they kind of struggled in this run, which surprised me. It was a 3-2 win to Shanghai. MVP was Izayaki. However, what looks like here, mainly in Kings Row, Hangzhou looked very good. I think they did have Shy in for a little bit as well. I think playing with, who was it? I can't remember who they were putting in as. I can't remember. Maybe that was actually the other one. I can't remember, but I think they did put Shy in the roster, and that, I feel like that did kind of change um, Hangzhou's performance. So Shanghai that was still won against Hangzhou. We're now going to the West, and it was a 3-2 to Boston's way against London Spitfire. Um, I'm not I'm not that surprised it was a 3-2. I thought it would probably go around like 7 maps, but it was only 5 maps, so which was alright. London, I don't think they look too well, I'll be honest. London and Vancouver don't look that well. I think they are possibly the worst team in the West region. I think Boston is better than them, obviously. But London and Vancouver doesn't look, they didn't look that good in the West region. So they probably either maybe need to make some upgrades, get rid of some places which they don't really need, and all that other stuff. Next up, Shock versus Florida. I'm very surprised that Shock dominated Florida like this. A 3-0 to Shock's way. I expected Florida to get a map off Shock. I'm very surprised that they didn't. So there's that. And the next one, Washington versus Toronto. I am not that surprised, but very surprised that Washington actually won against Toronto that convincingly. I thought Toronto was probably gonna have a chance, like maybe get like a couple, like maybe one map off Washington, but I knew it was gonna be Washington's way anyways. But Washington looks scary. They look hella scary, especially with the DPS and tank duos that they have. The supports I think are still kind of lackluster, but I think they are still pretty good. So Washington, oh my god, that's just so good. I also especially Mag and especially Mag. Oh my god, he was amazing. Now for the East, Seoul versus Valiant, not that surprising. It was Seoul's way against Valiant 3-0. Hangzhou versus Guangzhou, it was a 3-0, and that is where Shy was played. I think Guangzhou did. They didn't really look too good. I'm still like Probably gonna say this. Maybe Guangzhou is maybe seventh or sixth in APAC. I'll be honest now, just because of how bad they've performed. But yeah, Guangzhou doesn't didn't look that well. And Shanghai versus New York, I'm not that surprised at all. I'm just not. But the final matches, which happened today, Florida versus Paris was a 3-1. I'm very surprised Paris actually got a map off Florida, but it was still Florida's way, 3-1. Toronto versus London, it went to Toronto's way. Um, Surprised London actually kind of made it competitive. I'll be honest. They kind of shat the bed. And then Shock versus Atlanta. I hmm. Obviously, I am Atlanta fan. I'm a little bit ticked off that they didn't really win, but it was still a great performance by them. And Shock, they have kind of backed down a bit. I think they have kind of downgraded. They got FD God, Nero, who was like Glister, um, well, yeah, and obviously Tayo and Twilight near the end of the season. But I'm very surprised that they went that far down. I would have expected them to just 3-0 everyone, but some teams have definitely gone a lot more competitive, like Houston, Washington, Florida, Toronto. But yeah, so with week 3 already done, let's have a look at the standings and who is advanced to the main Melee tournament. So this is the standings. So let's first start with the West standings. Washington, Houston, Shock, Florida, Toronto, and Dallas have advanced. Obviously, Washington got the better map differential than Houston. Both of them got 4-0. But I think what the picture was mainly of is mainly, I think, I'm going to say Gladiators versus Toronto. If Toronto actually, I think, lost like 2 or 1 map, Gladiators, I think, would have been in. So Gladiators was very, very close, but yeah, so far I think it was also because Shock just went up the charts, so kind of makes sense there. Atlanta, so Gladiators 7th, and then Atlanta, Paris, Boston, Vancouver, and London with the worst map differential of -9. I think if London actually got another map off Toronto, or they even won against Boston, they would have easily been 11th place, or even 10th place actually. So a little bit unlucky there. But so the West region will be the top 6. Washington and Houston will be advancing to the semifinals in their region. We now move on to the East. Philadelphia, Seoul, Chengdu, and Shanghai advance. I'm not even surprised at all there. I feel like there weren't even any competition. I feel like Hangzhou, Guangzhou, New York, and Valley there are definitely in the back foot. So I'm not really that surprised about that. I'm very surprised that Shanghai actually has a worse map differential than Chengdu. Chengdu only has a +6, while Shanghai has a +4. So I'm very, very surprised about that. But yeah, so that's the standings for the main melee. We're now going into the tournament for the main melee. So obviously those are the participants: Washington, Houston, Shock, Florida, Toronto, and Dallas. And then for the East, Philly, Seoul, Chengdu, and Shanghai. So first will be the regional knockouts. Only 2 teams from each of the I guess, yeah. So each 2 of the regions will advance to the tournament weekend, where I think the NA, so the West region, they will be traveling to Hawaii, I think, if I remember correctly, or maybe everyone will be traveling to Hawaii. I can't really remember, but they will be playing in Hawaii just for even ping, which is pretty nice. So it'll be the semifinals there. The tournament will start practically, well, quote unquote, tomorrow for me. Well, today we'll be starting with the East Division, and then the next day will be the West on May 3rd. I think all of them will be on May 3rd. Yep, so everyone will be on the May 3rd. So it'll be first East, and the May 2nd and 19 00, which I think that's I'm trying to remember. I think that is 7. I think if I remember correctly, and then the Chengdu versus Seoul. That'll be around 8:30. I'm going to say. I can't remember because I can't remember 24-hour time. But either way, it'll be Shanghai versus Philly first, and then it'll be Chengdu versus Seoul. So I guess that is about it. I guess I'll probably also show the June Joust. Um, so the June Joust ones, the matches. Uh, it's gonna be just only hiding. So I'll be actually first showing week 6 only week 6. Week 6. So this is gonna be the schedule: Paris versus Toronto, and London versus Florida to start off the tournament. Then Guangzhou versus Hangzhou, Shanghai versus Chengdu, and New York versus Philly for the side of the East. And then it'll be Paris versus Washington, Houston versus Atlanta, Toronto versus Boston for the West. And then it'll be Shanghai versus Hangzhou, New York versus Guangzhou, Philly versus Chengdu for the East. And then finally for the West, Atlanta versus London, Washington versus Boston, and Florida versus Houston. So that also means that if I'm trying to remember, the Gladiators, Shock, Vancouver, and Dallas won't play until next week. And then for the East, it will be Valiant and I don't know who else. I think it's Seoul. Yeah, Seoul. So Valiant and Seoul won't be playing until next week. And week 8 will also be the first ever homestand event for the year. It will be hosted by the Hangzhou Spark. So that's it for me now. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Catch you guys on next time in the next one. And actually, before I end the video, as I just remember when I was doing my outro, I will be doing the Valorant challenges. So the Valorant challenges as a whole, I'll be doing that when all the regions are finished, just for as an F1 as a FYI. So now I do my intro, set my outro. That's it for me now. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Catch you guys on next time in the next one. Goodbye.